From religion to wrestling, gumbo to grits, politics to poetry, and all things Southern in between, this is Take on the South. Produced by the Institute for Southern Studies and hosted by the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of South Carolina, Take on the South examines the highs and lows of the American South, examines the truths and fictions of the country's most distinctive region, and picks the brains of some of its most accomplished students. To understand the South, you need to take it on, and that's what we'll be doing. Join us as we take on the South.
Welcome, listeners and viewers, to Take on the South, the podcast of the University of South Carolina's Institute for Southern Studies. So I'm one of the hosts, Emily Allen, and I'm excited to chat with you about one of my guests today about history and culture of the South. So our guest, as you see with us today, is Dr. Deidra Suwanee Dees. A little bit more about our guest, Dr. Dees. She is of Mvskoke and Scottish descent. Dr. Deidra Suwanee Dees descends from the Wing clan following Mvskoke stompdance tradition, and she was announced by Kinsman Quarterly as a winner of the 2023 Native Voices Award. And she is also an accomplished author. She has written Vision Lines, Native American Decolonizing Literature. She is also a graduate of Cornell and Harvard and works at the Poarch Creek Indians, teaches Native American Studies at the University of South Alabama. And she has another book of literature coming out, Indian Ice, this coming fall 2024. So welcome, Dr. Dees.
Mado, thank you in Mvskoke language. Mado, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about all the different things that you do. Multi-talented woman, obviously. So can you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate being able to speak. I really enjoy working at the Poarch Band of Creek Indians, and I've been there for almost 14 years. I've been working in the archives. I work with regulatory, and we preserve records. We document. We record oral history, and we've produced several books, the Voice of Vision book and Singy the Cow, the children's book by Roberta McGee Sells. And I really enjoy that, but I also have a second job, as you said, at the University of South Alabama. I enjoy teaching Native American Studies, and I've been doing that for more than 10 years. I team teach with team teach with several, and I have really enjoyed team teaching with Dr. Philip Carr in the anthropology department. It's a pleasure to be here at the University of South Carolina.
Yeah, it's been great to have you here, and I know the students in our conversation today learned a lot, as well as some of my colleagues. So, in the discussion earlier today, and as you're alluding to here, you cover a lot of different areas: writing, archival work, dance, higher education teaching. So we'll talk about these different areas, but maybe we can start with discussions of your writing, especially your new book that's coming out, Indian Ice. So can you tell us a little bit what that body of literature is going to be about, and what are some of the key ideas and themes that you feel like come out through your book?
Yes, I put that book together spanning a 30-year process of my writing. So I selected poetry. It's a book of poetry about decolonization. And I focus in the book on poems that I wrote many years ago, and then poems that I wrote just this year. So it spans that 30-year period of my writing, starting as a young person, and I really enjoy developing those themes of colonization, and because I have decolonization, and because I have so many of those poems that address that, I thought it would make an appropriate book to put it together. I marketed that, and I was thankful to be accepted by Get Fresh Books publication in New Jersey, wonderful publisher that produces a lot of work by people of color and the underrepresented, and I'm always in support of the underrepresented. I feel the underrepresented needs to be represented, and so I'm delighted to be able to offer that book as decolonizing literature. And it was a pleasure to write it, and it was a pleasure to go in and pick what would I put in it over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So it's an eclectic collection, but I think a collection that is really helpful in the time that we live in, when so many of these topics that we're discussing 30 years ago, we're still discussing today about decolonization.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's very timely work for sure. So I'm looking forward to reading it, and hopefully some of our listeners and viewers will check it out as well. I was actually going to ask you as well, in terms of kind of your lineage as a writer, are there other Native authors that you look up to that you feel like have helped you with your writing?
Yes, I really enjoy reading Joy Harjo, who's America's the last poet laureate, and so she is from Mvskoke Nation in Oklahoma, and someone that I have danced together with some years ago. We danced together at Hotvlkvlke in present-day Oklahoma. She has a different grounds that she dances at now, and she's someone that I respected back then. Probably have all of her books, and I have really enjoyed her writing. She's a wonderful writer, and yes, a very big inspiration to me. And I'm so thankful that she was selected as the Poet Laureate of the United States. A great platform for her work to be seen by many that maybe didn't know about her before. And I think by her being in that position as a Mvskoke woman, she also uplifts other Indigenous women and other Indigenous people by having that position.
Yeah, so it's really great to hear about this lineage, like between your own 30 years of writing that you're bringing to this book, and how you're looking to other individuals like that that pass this on. And like you said, I think it's a really great level of representation, anything from Poet Laureate to your book that you're releasing. So it's really cool to hear about this kind of literary representation. And like you said, I think it's important to bring those voices definitely to the forefront. As you're doing, like even by coming to USC to join us. And of course, I know another part of your work where you are also preserving voices and elevating those voices is through your work as an archivist, right? So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. So can you, through your work as the archivist, what are some of your philosophies as an archivist, and what kind of tasks do you feel like you're taking on right now as in that role, I guess?
Well, I have enjoyed so much doing the work, and archival preservation involves many areas, from paper records to digital records, all different analog types of records that are recording or video, as well as documenting oral history, collecting that data as we see that needs to be documented by the elders in our community. I recently documented our former tribal chairman, Buford L. Rowland. He was unable to join us at our 40-year Federal Recognition Anniversary Conference a couple of weeks ago. So we had a gift for him, so I took it to his home and gifted it to him. I gave him a little poster that had a picture of all of the 83, 84 tribal council members on it. And he started talking about the history of each individual person, and I realized this is a moment that needs to be captured. This is a moment where, and I didn't have any of my recording equipment. I wasn't planning to record him, so I just pushed the button on my cell phone and captured the data. So sometimes you are prepared and you can capture the data with all the equipment. You have scheduled interviews and families that come in to be interviewed, and then sometimes it's on the fly. It's just, okay, there's something that needs to be captured. So I captured it, and it was about a 30-minute interview with him, kind of walking down memory lane, talking about each individual tribal council member that he served with on 1983 and 1984, so 40 years ago. So while he wasn't able to come to the conference, he actually gave us some excellent data that he would have shared had he been able to come to the conference. So that's an example of a project that I'm working on. So I talked with my supervisor, Mr. Russell Martin, about this fabulous interview that I captured, and unexpectedly. And so I talked with him about how to develop that into an article for Creek Corner magazine. This is an article that the Poarch Creek Indians produces monthly to share news with the tribal community, but it goes beyond. We have it online, and so anyone who would like to read it has access to it, so it's not restricted to tribal members only. And oftentimes there's pertinent information for all. So I'm working on an article right now. My deadline is November the 1st, so it's right around the corner. So I am working on that article now, pulling data from the conference, from the wonderful interview that I collected from Buford Rowland, not transcribed yet, but I'm pulling quotations from it, and then also some wonderful images that were taken at the conference by one of our young photographers, Mr. Ethan Bowen, who captured some really great photographic images. And so I'm looking at pulling some of that data. I'm working on pulling that data as well for the article. So that's my next big project, that I can get meet that deadline, pull all of this together and put that into a concise article that's helpful for maybe those who weren't able to attend. They can actually come to understand something about what we did celebrating that 40-year federal recognition anniversary, a very big and a significant milestone in the tribe's history.
Yeah, and that's amazing to have that, again, going back to voices, like that speaks to that 40-year anniversary in so many different ways. So it's really cool that you were able to capture that and have the actual celebration, but then have it in that magazine, that article that you're writing. So that's really exciting, and I like that multimodal approach that you take to like preserving that, like in that multimedia kind of way.
I like to see things have more than one life. So to me, it lives another life. So we have the event, we have the wonderful attendees, over 200 that attended. But again, we have tribal members that live in different areas and can't come to an event like that. And we also have some of those who are unable to physically get out and come in. So having a write-up, an article about it in the Creek Corner magazine gives them an opportunity to access it, and then, as I said, beyond, because it goes beyond just our tribal community. So for me, I like to see things, projects that we work on have multiple lives, multiple life, not just one life, but use it again. And the Buford Rowland interview, I can see that having multiple repercussions as well. We could use that in other projects, and we could combine his interview with other interviews when those who talk about federal recognition and that 40-year anniversary. So again, it pleases me. It makes me happy to see these projects have multiple lifeline.
Yeah, and I think related to that, right? Like, again, I think that speaks to your experience as well. You also bring these voices to the forefront through so many different things that you do, your literature, your dance, your education, right? So in terms of what we talked about today at USC, you informed a lot of us about the stomp dance traditions. So maybe just to kind of review a little bit of that for listeners who weren't able to come to this today. How do you see the stomp dance tradition also as a transmission of like tradition, archiving, voice, things like that?
Well, you could say it's a living archive.
Yeah.
Because we are following the dance that our ancestors danced for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. As I said in class, I met with our Miko and told him I was coming here to speak to the students and faculty, and I asked him what would he like me to convey about the stomp dance, and he wanted me to share information about the importance of women, especially in the ribbon dance, which is done at Green Corn. So he emphasized that. He shared that there's a lot of wonderful music that connects with our tradition. He talked about how women have used the lullabies to teach the children and how they have evolved and developed over time, even under colonial rule, even under removal when the larger part of the nation was removed on the Trail of Tears, what is infamously called the Trail of Tears, but removed under the Removal Act. And he talked about the women developing lullabies for the children to soothe them and help them to go to sleep and not be afraid even in a fearful environment. He talked about how there's been African influence in the church music, and how that has become a mixing of different cultures. Some of the songs and traditions came from Africa through the unfortunate slave trade, and those songs made it to the ears of Mvskokes and then into the churches. And so he talked about that being an important part of our music, where the church hymns are now shared. And at our federal recognition conference, we had our elder hymn choir to sing some songs, some church hymns in Mvskoke language, and it was really beautiful. So he emphasized that, so there's the stomp dance music, there's lullabies, there's church music, but he really strongly emphasized the importance of women in the at Green Corn and at the ceremonial grounds, and he said that the women are the backbone of the grounds, and so important that through the ribbon dance the women are able to go into the area, cleanse the area, and get it ready for dance. So those are some important takeaways that he shared with me that I wanted to share with your listeners.
Yeah, and I can absolutely see what you mean by it being a living, breathing archive, right? Like you said, like things have multiple lives, and that's really amazing to see how the importance of women has continued, like in these traditions, right? So, including you, right, in this kind of context. So it's really cool to see that kind of process that you're describing here. And thank you for educating us, especially as a teacher yourself. So that's kind of in terms of your many talents. The next one I would like to discuss. Just to recap for listeners, Dr. Dees teaches Native American Studies courses at the University of South Alabama. So in that context, or maybe in any kind of educational context, what do you feel like are some of your teaching philosophies? And in that vein, do you have any insight for folks who teach Native American history, for instance, at the college level?
Well, I really enjoy teaching Native American Studies. I wanted to see that at the University of South Alabama when I was a student, and I wanted to take courses, and I couldn't find any. They didn't have any. And so President Whidden at the time, I was in the Student Government Association. I was a head of the Minority Affairs Committee. I was a senator. So that put us in touch with the president, President Whidden. And in my conversation with him, as he came to meet with us about issues that students are interested in, one of the issues was, I think you should have a Native American Studies program here. There's no program in the state of Alabama where you can go and get a degree or a minor at that time, and so and there are no courses that I can take, and so I felt like it was important. So he did a search with the student body, and then he came back and said, hey, we've got about 100 students who are self-identified as Indigenous, and he said, I think that you're right, that you have a good idea. I think we should pursue this. We should look at it. So that was exciting to hear that he was interested, that the president of the university was interested in that. And so as I was graduating from the University of South Alabama, and I walked across the stage to get my diploma from Dr. Whidden, he leaned in and whispered in my ear. He said, I haven't forgotten about the Native American Studies program that we talked about. He said, you go out, get your degrees, come back, and we'll make it happen. So that was really exciting for me as a student walking across the stage, not just getting my diploma, but I have a special message in my ear from the president. So I took that to heart, and so I went to Cornell and then Harvard and studied Native American Studies. And unfortunately, President Whidden passed away during that time, so I didn't have that avenue with him when I returned to the area after getting my degrees. But our tribal council was open to that, and so I talked with the new leadership at the University of South Alabama. They were open to a Native Studies program. Dr. Philip Card, Dean Mvskoke. So I talked with them, I talked with our tribal council, met with our tribal council, explained the importance of us, the tribe sponsoring a Native American Studies program in the state of Alabama, and fortunately they sponsored that in 2014, so it came into being. So what I had longed to see as a student actually came into being while I was employed at the Poarch Creek Indians. So that goes to show you the commitment that our council has. Our tribal council has a high level of commitment to education. It's amazing when you look at the history of the tribe and see that level of commitment. Our tribe gives funding to many different organizations that are educational institutions, and some of those organizations don't have any Creeks in them. They're non-native. That tells you the level of commitment that they have to education. So I am very thankful to work under a tribal council like that. And when I utilized these courses to teach students, when I developed the curriculum, I asked myself, if the student is exposed to only one course in their entire life on Indigenous issues, what should I tell them? What kind of information should we impart to them as educators? So that's a question I think educators should ask themselves in relation to Native American Studies. What do you want to impart if this is the only course, if this is the only time in their life they have some kind of encounter with Native American issues? And we need to make it really good. We need to really make sure that we're delivering the correct information, the correct history, and all the nuances that go along with Native American Studies. And I'm so thankful that we're doing that at the University of South Alabama. We now have a minor. Mr. Billy Bailey, our Tribal Historic Preservation Officer at the tribe, was the first to go through and take a minor, get a minor degree in Native American Studies at the University of South Alabama, a star student. And so I'm very thankful to work with him. His office is right down the hall from mine, and I appreciate all the work that he is doing. And he is a stomp dancer as well. He and his family have danced at Hesosa Tallahassee. His mother, Cheryl Bailey, I shared with the students earlier, taught me how to stomp dance many years ago, and I'm so thankful for her. And she's served as our head lady dancer for many, many years, and I remember her so vividly in the ribbon dance, cutting through with a knife, symbolic of removing anything negative and cleaning the area as the ladies did the ribbon dance. So a lot of fond memories of that. So I think Native American Studies can incorporate these kinds of issues related to culture and have an opportunity for students to visit. I've had students to come and visit us at Hesosa Tallahassee and dance with us, or to come to our powwows where we do demonstration dances where they can join in and dance with us. And it's a pleasure to see students becoming immersed, students learning some of the language. So I think that the facets of Native American Studies is very broad. As you know, it's an interdisciplinary course, subject that we talk about because it does incorporate literature, culture, history, sociology, and anthropology in so many areas. And I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to teach at the University of South Alabama, and that I've had the opportunity to teach with Dr. Philip Carr, to team teach with him, an anthropologist who does wonderful work. And it's a pleasure to be able to deliver this content to students, and then also receive feedback from them on course surveys so that we can know how we can fine-tune it, improve it, and go in a direction stronger maybe that we didn't go in before. So these are some of the pieces of information that I would share with others who are teaching in Native American Studies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of sad because I graduated from the University of South Alabama in 2014, so I just missed your courses. Oh, man, I wish I could have taken those courses when I was there. So it's very exciting to hear that South students now have that opportunity. So, it's really great to hear about that. And like you said, those of us that teach, it's always great to hear from the students, and it sounds like you have really good relationship with your colleagues and students. So I'm really glad to hear that that's thriving at USA as an alumna. So not biased much, just a little bit. So that's very exciting to hear. But, I've been asking you about specific aspects of your work, so I wanted to also open it up to you. Beyond what we've already talked about, is there anything else you want to share with our viewers and listeners that we haven't already touched on?
Well, I think it's important that we incorporate all aspects of our lives, so that makes the whole of who we are. So I write all the time in my head. I'm always writing. My father led me to write when I was a child. My grandmother gave me a diary, so I started writing in the diary when I was a little girl. And I recorded the different history stories that Daddy would tell me about our family, our extended family. That's important to, you bring that with you, you bring that with you as a whole person and not a fragmented person. So I'm always writing. So when I started working at the Poarch Creek Indians, they got me to write a lot of different reports, a lot of different items and articles, and so I really enjoyed that. I've done a lot of writing for the tribe. We did a lot of research on different research projects, which I'm very thankful I've had the opportunity to work on. One big research project that I wrote about was the Carcieri. That was a Supreme Court case that needed some shoring up as far as our providing supportive evidence if that case went to trial or became challenged, I should say, about our sovereignty. And so I had the opportunity to work on that with a wonderful team, other team of researchers, Miss Ellen Obar and a number of others. So I'm thankful that I was able to work on that project, a very big project. It consumed a couple of years of our time while doing your other job duties. So my writing that I do on my personal time, I really enjoy that, and it reflects on my work. It reflects on the work that I do in the paid capacity at the tribe. So the poetry that I write, it reflects on my work. It reflects on many aspects of my work. My work as a teacher. I've written a number of poems and lesson plans while driving. I commuted back and forth to the university, and so I wrote on the back of a McDonald's wrapper or Big Mac wrapper. Sometimes I would jot things down while en route, and then when I got home, I would write them down. So I wrote poetry, I wrote curriculum in my head. So my mind is always writing, and I bring that to whatever job I have, the job at the tribe, the job at the University of South Alabama. So I'm so thankful to be able to incorporate that writing into my work and also have it in my personal life. And I'm so thankful for Daddy, who told me those stories and instilled in me the importance of, he didn't say, write this down, you need to record this. He just said this, he told the story, it was so important. And I saw it was so important, then I started writing it down. And I'm thankful that my grandmother gave me a diary that I was able to record stories in narrative as well as in poetic terms. So those records, I have all of those records, all of those diaries at home, and I have been able to go back to those and pull data when I need to, and pull stories when I need to, pull poetry for the book that I talked about earlier from those journals. So it's all-encompassing. A person, when they come to the job, it's all-encompassing of who they are, the dance, the writing, the education, the expertise that they have, the experience they have in a certain area. And I'm thankful that I can bring it all together at the Poarch Creek Indians and serve the tribal members, which is why we have our jobs, to serve tribal members.
Yeah, I love that, because you have such a wealth of rich experience in all these ways, and I love that you use those amazing skills to serve your community in that way. And it's really great to hear about the collaboration you do and the partnerships that you have all across all these different facets of that way, right? Like, we're so elevated by the people around us, I think, in wonderful ways, and it's great when you feel like you can pay it back to them as well. So I appreciate you sharing that with our listeners, and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Oh, and it's been a pleasure, and I will say I hope that we see each other again. I'm so appreciative of you coming to our archives and asking questions about the archival holdings that we have, and so it was really a pleasure to meet you in that capacity, and now you have provided this hospitality to me and Amy Gant, our Tribal Council Treasurer, who is here with me, who has traveled here with me, so we thank you for your hospitality.
Absolutely, and I love learning, and obviously you love teaching, so I think our students and our listeners and viewers will also learn a lot from the conversation, so it's been a pleasure to have you here. And listeners, thank you for taking time to listen and watch our conversation with Dr. Deidra Suwanee Dees, and I'll catch you next time on Take on the South.
That was our Take on the South. Let us know yours. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at U of SC South. Take on the South is produced by Matt Simmons of the Institute for Southern Studies. Special thanks to Professor Dave Garner of the University of South Carolina School of Music for composing our music. Tune in next time for another Take on the South.